Take a family trip without ever leaving your home with a Honda Virtual Adventure, an expert-guided tour of the awe-inspiring Niagara Falls. Thinking of going for real? The new Honda CR-V Hybrid is a fun, efficient way to get you there.
Hi guys, welcome to this Honda Virtual Adventure here at Niagara Falls State Park, which is the nation's oldest state park. I'm Angela Birdie and I'm the Public Affairs Director here at Niagara Falls State Park. And I've been leading real-life tours for over 12 years, and I'm happy to be leading you today on this one-of-a-kind virtual adventure. Today we're going to see Niagara Falls from a whole new perspective using Google Earth. So as we take our tour, and if you have any questions, feel free to plug them in down below, and we're going to stop a few times and try to answer them for you. So we are at one of the most iconic places on Earth. Niagara Falls began over 12,000 years ago during the Great Ice Age, when glaciers nearly 10,000 feet thick covered this entire area. When the ice receded and the water began to flow over the 250-foot cliff that was left, we discovered we had Niagara Falls. Until 1883, the land surrounding the falls was privately owned and had become a commercialized circus. In fact, hucksters would charge 25 cents just to peer through a piece of wood to get a glimpse of the falls. During the establishment of Niagara Falls State Park, renowned landscape architect Frederick Law Olmsted, who's known for his work at New York City's Central Park, created a vision for what this park should look like. While we can't actually say he designed our park, we do credit him with the vision and many of the concepts that make this urban park so special. So before we begin, it should explain that Niagara Falls is actually made up of 3 different falls. We've got the Mighty Horseshoe Falls, or the Canadian Falls, as we see here, the American Falls, which is very rocky, and then the Bridal Veil Falls, which is an homage to the fact that we are the honeymoon capital of the world. So we're going to begin our tour where many of our 9 million visitors begin each year at Prospect Point. This is the area that overlooks the American Falls and the Bridal Veil Falls, and it's where you access the world-famous Maid of the Mist boat tour. The American Falls has a crest line of 1,100 feet and a plunge of 176 feet to the rocky gorge below. 75,000 gallons of water flow over the American and Bridal Veil Falls every second. So while you're standing at Prospect Point and you look across the river, you will see Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. Our 2 countries are divided by the Niagara River and connected by the Rainbow Bridge. You may wonder why there are so many skyscrapers over there and not so many here on this side. And the simple reason is that because of the history of this park and why it was created and the vision of Frederick Law Olmsted, we as a community have taken strides to maintain a more natural environment. So we've got some questions coming in. Who discovered Niagara Falls? Well, we know that there's a long history of indigenous people that resided here in the Western New York area, and it goes all the way back to the glacial times that we just talked about, and so they get the credit. But really it was French priest Father Louis Hennepin who was the first European to see the falls, and he wrote about it and inspired many others to come to see us. So great question. Let's see, what kind of fish are found in Niagara Falls? People wonder how fish survive that plunge, and frankly, every kind of fish that you would see in the upper Great Lakes, you would see down in the lower Niagara River, including trout and smallmouth bass and salmon. And actually, this is one of the greatest fishing areas in the world, and many people come here just to fish as well. So maybe if you're into fishing, this is a great place to check out. Great questions. So we will continue our tour. We're going to walk south along the rapids and approach the historic American Falls bridges. These bridges were built in 1901, and we're awaiting funding so that they can be rebuilt. The bridges connect the mainland to Green Island and then to Goat Island. As we cross the bridges, we are 550 feet above sea level. The water you see passing under the bridge is in the midst of a 2,600-mile journey through the Great Lakes. The water begins at the furthest western Great Lake, which is Lake Superior, and then flows through Michigan, Huron, and Lake Erie. Once the water leaves Lake Erie, it travels north on the Niagara River for 35 miles before plunging over the brink of the falls, as you see here. So we have now arrived at Goat Island. There we go. Goat Island is about a half a mile long and a quarter mile wide. The island got its name during the winter of 1769 when John Stedman, who was a British officer and a gentleman farmer, brought his livestock over to protect them from predators on the mainland. That winter was unfortunately one of our famous winters here in the Western New York area, and one of the most severe ever, and unfortunately all of the livestock perished with the exception of a stubborn male goat, and hence the name Goat Island. So we will now head to the beautiful Luna Island. Heading to Luna Island, there are lovely walking trails that you can follow along the upper rapids before you arrive at Luna Island and the Bridal Veil Falls for a completely different view of the American Falls. This is really one of the best places to feel the power of the falls because you're standing right in the middle of the river, and on either side of you are the falls of the American Falls and the Bridal Veil Falls, and it's just amazing. So take a listen. So great. So as you ascend from Luna Island, you will see a large statue of Nikola Tesla, and you may wonder, why is there a large statue of this genius here? But it was a gift from the people of the former Yugoslavia in recognition of the work that Tesla did here at Niagara Falls to create alternating current. In fact, you wouldn't be watching this tour without the work of Tesla, so thanks for your contribution, Mr. Tesla. We're having a good time. So next we head to the Cave of the Winds attraction, which for me is the highlight of the entire park. Once you head into the gorge, you will stand literally under the thundering Bridal Veil Falls on the hurricane deck at the Cave of the Winds. It's impossible to stay dry. You'll be just feet away, and there's no place on earth that gets you closer to the power. And you can check it out here. You should know that there's no actual cave at the Cave of the Winds because it collapsed in the early 1900s. But as you can see, it's a series of wooden decks that we build here each spring and take down each fall. And if they were left up, they would be crushed under the tons of ice that build up here in the Niagara River. As you can see, it's beautiful, but very, very powerful. So upon your ascent from the gorge, we will head to the mighty Horseshoe Falls and Terrapin Point. It is. 90% of the upper Niagara River flows over this cataract, and the Horseshoe Falls has a crest line of 2,500 feet and a plunge of 167 feet to the Maid of the Mist pool below. When you're on the Maid of the Mist in that basin, there's going to be 675,000 gallons of water flowing over the falls and all around you every single second. So we've got some more questions coming in. Let's see. Super BB56 asks, what lives in the falls? Well, we talked about the fish, and we also have many different wildlife species here. One of the cool animals we have here are black squirrels. It's very rare to find black squirrels, and for some reason there are a ton of them here, and they're very friendly, and they like to scourge for food that our friends and our tourists leave behind, so there's very plentiful amount of black squirrels here. Lots of birds. It's a really great place, believe it or not, for really just enjoying nature. Let's see. How did they name Niagara Falls? It's actually an indigenous word meaning neck or straight. So it's Niagara Falls, and I'm sure there's a great history behind why it's named that, and we always will thank the indigenous people for their contributions to the history of this important place. And one last question is, can you visit year-round? And yes, you can. We are open 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. There's no gate. You're welcome to come in when you want. Our winters are beautiful here. Like I said, they're very beautiful, but very cold. But we really love when people come in the winter because it's really special and a completely different experience. So we do encourage year-round visitation. So let's carry on with our tour. Great questions again. Throughout the years, this is actually another question we usually get, is about daredevils. And throughout the years, many daredevils have tried to conquer the Horseshoe Falls. They use barrels, bell-shaped containers, and even a jet ski with a jetpack and a parachute. The first person to successfully do this was a school teacher from Michigan named Annie Edson Taylor. She came here on October 24th, 1901, and accomplished her feat in a specially built oak barrel that she designed. And by the way, this is how she chose to celebrate her 63rd birthday. And throughout the years, there have been 16 daredevil attempts, and only 9 were successful. In 1960, 7-year-old Roger Woodward was swept over the Horseshoe Falls wearing only a life jacket to protect him. And amazingly, he survived the plunge. You can see him there. Roger was one of 3 people on a boat that developed engine trouble upriver. The boat drifted into the rapids and capsized. Roger's sister was pulled from the brink of the falls and by passing tourists at Terrapin Point, but sadly the boat's owner didn't survive the plunge over the falls. And perhaps the most famous person to conquer Niagara Falls is Nick Wallenda, who in 2012 walked across the falls on a tightrope. 26-minute walk was heart-stopping, and we honor his accomplishment today with a small monument right at Terrapin Point. We're watching a little video of that, and there you can see an actual piece of the rope that Nick generously donated to us to put on display, and that is metal. And if you could imagine that full of mist from the falls, that was really quite something that he made it across. And we are proud to say that he gained his fame here with us. So strolling along the quiet paths, we are now approaching our final stop on the tour, which is the recently restored Three Sisters Islands. These islands were named Asnith, Angeline, and Celinda Eliza after the daughters of American general and great defender of the Niagara frontier, Parkhurst Whitney. The islands are connected by footbridges, allowing you to walk over the powerful and furious Canadian rapids while enjoying a few moments of solitude in an otherwise very busy park. Great place to take a breather and enjoy just some nature and all the birds and the nature that we just talked about as well. So that concludes the tour, but we're going to answer just a few more questions. Let's see, what do we got? How many visitors a year, Kylie Ferguson asks. Well, we say there's 9 million visitors a year. It's unbelievably busy here, and even now with the situation going on in our world, we are open for business. We've got the Cave of the Winds open and the Maid of the Mist open, and we're hoping that we see somewhere close to that 9 million visitor a year mark. So that's a good question. It's hard to count really because there's no gate, there's no ticket window or anything like that. So we do the best we can counting all of our visitors each year. And is there a safe place to swim near the falls? That's a great question, and I will stress very much so that this is not the place to swim. But there's some great beaches. Beaver Island State Park, which is just about 15 minutes from here, has a great swimming area. And as does Woodlawn Beach, also in Buffalo. So there's some great beaches in the Western New York area. Niagara Falls is not one of those places. But certainly come and enjoy the beauty and feel the mist, and don't swim. So thanks for all the great questions, everyone. And this concludes our virtual adventure here at Niagara Falls. Thanks so much for joining me. Hope you had fun and that you learned a little bit about the falls and that you might be inspired to come and visit us. And one last little tip is if you do come, try to come in late summer, early fall when it's really at its most beautiful and some of the crowds have died down. So thank you again for joining us on this Honda virtual adventure, and we wish you a really great day. Take care.
This virtual adventure has been brought to you by the first ever Honda CR-V Hybrid. And when you want to explore Niagara Falls in reality, the fun and sporty CR-V Hybrid can get you there.